Hi everyone, Brian from the channel Brian here, and every day throughout the month of February I reviewed a famous rom-com, romance, or otherwise chick flicky movie in an effort to broaden my horizons in those genres. And that's right, I made it. It's the last day of February, and for this occasion I thought I'd save the best for last with Joe versus the Volcano. It's a movie that really grabbed me with its kind of obtuse ideas and weird story. Tom Hanks plays a guy who's super dissatisfied with his job, always is sick, and gets diagnosed with a terminal illness called a brain cloud. Already upset with his dead-end position and his boss, played by Dan Hedaya, Hanks quits his job. The next day, this entrepreneur, wealthy businessman type guy says, "Hey, heard you got diagnosed with this terminal illness. I want you to offer yourself up as a human sacrifice for this Pacific Islander ritual and jump into a volcano so that they will give me land." He says, "I'll give you 4 unlimited credit cards so you can live out the remainder of your life in style, as long as you do this for me." Tom Hanks says, "Yeah, sure, I'm dying, I'll do it." And from there, we're treated to this delightful simulacrum of choices highlighting Tom Hanks' journey to search for his soul and live life to the fullest. With a premise like that, it's kinda easy to tell that the film is taking the piss a little. It's real tongue-in-cheek, kind of a less zany, intimate, smaller scale, screwball comedy vibe. But even though it deals in themes of wasted life and dead-end jobs and death and soul-sucking corporations, it's still very lighthearted. For instance, Dan Hedaya plays Tom Hanks' boss and constantly is having these circular conversations on the phone. We don't know what the other person's saying, but it's funny that his reaction is always the same. It's a funny idea, but it really speaks to how repetitive Tom Hanks' life is and how much he wants a break and to truly feel like he's living. This is a great performance by Tom Hanks. Meg Ryan plays 3 very different, yet all uniquely entertaining characters. But it really is the heart of gold dryness to the sense of humor and dialogue that makes Joe versus the Volcano work so well. I think of one scene where Tom Hanks is fishing on a boat and he accidentally hooks up a shark. But it's obviously fake. It's like a little hand puppet, but it feels like it's intentional, like it's part of like a structured joke. And it's coupled with Tom Hanks' hilarious reaction to it, as if it was, real. Joe versus the Volcano is very good at illustrating that what separates a good romantic comedy from being a truly great film is the same thing that separates any genre from being a great movie, and that's a creative, expressive vision with talented people behind it who know what direction to take it and what avenues you have to use to get it there. Sometimes it might run a little too wild in coming up with ideas and leaving them behind completely. Once Joe versus the Volcano is done with a character or mood, it's gone and doesn't come back. I know it's a loose reality we were dealing with here, but it's just a little too far for me. It's a very blunt sort of commentary on loss of identity to the corporate machine like Brazil, as it doesn't really leave a lot of the characters' innermost thoughts unsaid. But the thing is, I don't care, as long as the experience is planned around that and doesn't feel like a shortcut's being taken by lazy and stupid film producers. It's so different from everything else in the genre. The people behind it are content to go above and beyond what might be expected of them. It's not pandering to anybody. I set out to do this project and hopefully at least walk away with one romantic comedy movie that I can say, hey, this is really doing something different. This is really doing something exceptional with the genre. And I got it. It's Joe versus the Volcano. And I would give Joe versus the Volcano an 8 out of 10. It's pushing on being a 9. We're gonna see how that goes. The rating's not gonna go down. It's never gonna be a 7. But only time will tell if its rating goes up. But before I end this video, I want to give my official ranking of all the movies that I watched this month. All 28 of them. At number 28, we have Bride Wars. It's unfunny, it's shrill, and I hated both of the main characters. Obnoxious, nonsensical, and I hated it. Number 27 is Confessions of a Shopaholic. not as big of a gap between this and Bride Wars as I thought there would be. It was much closer than anticipated, but it's still obscenely bad. Like I said in my video about it, I can't wait to never watch this movie again in my life. Number 26 is Love Actually, a bunch of half-baked, unobjectionably pleasant greeting cards of scenes strung together to manipulate an audience into an emotional reaction that is wholly undeserved. It's no Bride Wars, but still sucks. Number 25 is Leap Year, obnoxious fan fiction tropes thrown together. Matthew Good is a terrible love interest. And even Amy Adams doing what the script requires of her can't really save it. Number 24 is There's Something About Mary, one of the more dated comedies that I've seen in recent memory. And when you really get to the heart of what it's trying to say, I think it's even more dated than it may seem at first glance. Number 23 is 27 Dresses. I don't understand why this movie has to look the way it does, all boxy and claustrophobic and washed out. Katherine Heigl may not be as bad of an actress as some people claim she is, but 27 Dresses is still pretty bad. Number 22, Runaway Bride. I don't like Julia Roberts, but this movie in particular had that element of, oh, we're going to call Richard Gere out for being a misogynist, but meanwhile we're also going to pander to exactly like what he thinks of women, his reductive portrayal of women. Number 21 is Pretty Woman. Gets all kind of class commentary and subject matter wrong. Also forgot to mention in the Runaway Bride entry that I don't like how Richard Gere acts, so especially in these two ones there was just nothing for me to latch onto in terms of performance. Number 20 is My Best Friend's Wedding. Julia Roberts' character is written to be the least likable in this one out of all of the ones that I watched, but there were trace elements of fun from a wide-eyed newcomer Cameron Diaz and Rupert Everett's character. Number 19 is The Notebook, big stinky cheese pile of a film. It is the arbiter of those white people almost kissing movies that came out for years and years to follow, and it just took a lot of like very cheap romance novel cliches and just kind of threw them all together. Number 18 is Sweet Home Alabama, where Reese Witherspoon's hometown just collectively gaslights her into giving up everything that she's worked for in life. Number 17 is Notting Hill, still an incredibly boring story and structure, but I don't think it did anything that ostensibly offensive. And we're getting into movies that have like the slightest modicum of interest for me because Hugh Grant is at least vaguely charming in this. Number 16 is Knocked Up, where you see a lot of Judd Apatow regulars doing what they'll eventually be typecast for, and not much else that's good. Number 15 is The Wedding Singer, probably the most simplistic narrative on this list, but it had a couple funny moments, and I feel it really gave me at least a little bit of insight as to what people like about old Adam Sandler movies, even though I'm not really a fan of them. Number 14 is What Women Want. I can see this being a good movie in a different universe. I'm sad I wasn't born into that one. Mel Gibson's character really hamstrings this movie from being good, but compared to every movie below it, I can see how it easily could have been retooled into something that I'd like. Number 13 is Foul Play. It might be a hodgepodge of genres and not do any of them very well, with Goldie Hawn, who is just kind of a nothing protagonist, and it underutilizes Chevy Chase's comedic ability. You know, now that I mention it, that's like a lot of bad things in a row, but it had its moments. Number 12 is Zack and Miri Make a Porno, if only for the sporadic hilarity of Kevin Smith's script and nothing else. Number 11 is 13 Going on 30, an inoffensive, sweet, bubblegum movie. Coming down super hard on this movie just feels like, I don't know, bullying a child. Number 10 is You've Got Mail. For all of its quaintness and how Tom Hanks continues to manipulate Meg Ryan over email way longer than he should, and it makes no sense that Meg Ryan would still want to be with him at the end of the movie. The leads are still charming, the side characters are still charming, and that goes a long way. Number 9 is While You Were Sleeping, if only because it's incredibly easy to see where Sandra Bullock's coming from emotionally. Her loneliness is broader than just wanting a man, and it's very palpable. Number 8 is Crazy Stupid Love. While I don't think it has as many big, dramatic, sweeping statements to make about love as it might think it does, Ryan Gosling eats a piece of pizza with tribal music in the background. Number 7 is About Time. Even though I think it runs out of steam by the end, it's still a cute movie, and Domhnall Gleeson and Rachel McAdams have good chemistry in it. Oh, and it's got those really surprising cameos, like Margot Robbie's in this. Number 6 is Dirty Dancing. I think this movie is wonderfully structured. A surprising classic movie that's not as boring as you might think it is. I haven't been this happy to find out Wayne Knight is in a movie since I watched Space Jam. Number 5 is Four Weddings and a Funeral. If you're looking for a movie that really gets the character side of rom-coms right, I think this is the one you should watch. Number 4 is 10 Things I Hate About You. This one was a very big surprise to me. I probably would have waited a lot longer than I did to see this if it weren't for this project. And I'm glad I did. Number 3 is Sleepless in Seattle. It's likable, it's charming, and even though the leads don't share a lot of screen time, for some reason the yearning they feel for each other is still so compelling. Number 2 is When Harry Met Sally, which is like one of the Mount Rushmore heads for rom-coms. The only problem I have with it is that the initial premise that men and women can't be friends without sex getting in the way is undercut by the fact that it is a romantic comedy, but most other stuff I liked. Nora Ephron's writing just really appeals to me. It's so sharp and witty and likable. And that brings us to number 1, which is Joe versus the Volcano, which really you can just go back earlier in the video if you want to know the reasons why. So, for one last time this month, if you like not only words but the way I arrange and then say them, please consider liking this video and subscribing to me, Brian from the channel Brian. Thank you, and goodbye.